Hello everyone and welcome to Blind Beauty. I'm Jennifer. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to share with you the basics of foundation. I already have one video in this series called the do's and don'ts of foundation, where I show one side done correctly and the other side not correct. But we're going to be talking about three different foundations in particular here that I'm going to talk about. And I will also give you tips on selecting the right shade as well, and show you different tools that you can use. Now, I've already put on a primer on my face. This is the e.l.f. Blemish Control Primer that I used. Whenever you put on a primer, it does help extend the wear of your foundation. That's what I find, at least. So I like using a primer sometimes, especially if I'm wanting it to last 8, 10, 12 hours. But some foundations don't need a whole lot of help to stay very long, like the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. This one, I can sweat in it. It will last a good 8 hours without a primer. However, other foundations like the L'Oreal Magic Skin Beautifier BB Cream or the Maybelline Dream Wonder Fluid Touch Foundation, either one of these, a primer does help it extend the wear of your foundation. So if you have problems with your foundation melting off your face, that is a tip, is to put a primer on. And then if you're really extremely oily, you can also take a loose powder like the Coty Airspun, the e.l.f. HD powder, any loose setting powder, and set that primer as well before you move on to your actual foundation. And you can also put a setting spray on as well on top of that to really lock all that in before you go into your primer, or into your foundation rather. Now the foundations I talked about, the Wet n Wild, L'Oreal BB Cream, and the Dream Wonder Fluid Touch, these are all three pretty good foundations. These are my go-to foundations pretty much. So the Dream Wonder Fluid Touch, now this is the most light coverage that I own, that I know of, at least. And it is really a liquidy foundation. I mean, it has a little dropper there. So, and it is like water whenever you pour it out. Like if I were to pour some on the back of my hand, then that's what this would be. So it is a very light coverage, but it feels so good. It feels like I'm putting silk on my face. As far as I know, you can't get this at Walgreens or CVS or anywhere like that. You have to order it from like Amazon, eBay, somewhere like that. But it is a great foundation. Again, that is the Maybelline Dream Wonder Fluid Touch Foundation. So if you want really light coverage, light, I'd say 2 medium at most, then this is a great one for you. I mean, to me, it looks very natural. And then the next highest would be the L'Oreal Magic Skin Beautifier BB Cream. Now this here, it comes out and it looks about like lotion, really. I mean, but it has little beads in it that will give you the pigment. But this is the next highest of the coverage, because this is like medium coverage. I don't consider this full-on coverage, but if you do like a medium coverage or you don't have a lot of problems with your skin, you can put this on. Now, I have heard that you can also use this as your primer. I have done that before to just help beef up whatever foundation I'm putting on, and that does work. But I do recommend, before you use it, that you shake it up, because it is, like I said, it is like a lotiony type consistency, like that. So that just helps evenly distribute the beads. And even whenever you're blending it in, it takes a little bit to realize, oh yeah, there is a little bit of color coming off there. So that is the Skin Beautifier. Forgive the spot on my hand. I burnt myself on the oven the other day. Then the higher coverage one is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. Now all three of these are under $10 usually. The L'Oreal is about $9, depending on where you get it, $9 to $12. So it's the most expensive of all of them. I think the Maybelline Dream Wonder Fluid Touch, I believe it's about $6 on Amazon last I checked. So this is a good one to pick up, like I said, if you do want lighter coverage, you want something breathable, you know, that type of thing. And then the Wet n Wild, I think this is only like $5 to $6. And the Wet n Wild also has the little spatula thing here. So, in the shades I'm in, by the way, for Wet n Wild, it has the little cruelty-free symbol on here as well, if y'all can see that. I'm in Buff Bisque in the Wet n Wild, medium in the BB cream. Most BB creams only come in like a few shades. That is the one thing I don't like about BB creams. They only come in like light, light medium, medium, medium deep, and deep, if that wide of a range. I mean, there's not a huge range. That's why I don't, a lot of people might not wear BB creams. But we're going to go ahead and put on some foundation. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little paddle that's on here and use it to apply it. But if you don't have one with a paddle like so, you can pour some on the back of your hand onto a plate, whatever the case may be, and then apply it. Then what I'm going to use today is I'm going to be using this sponge right here. This is one by AOA Studio. It's a little, if you can tell, it's a bouncy sponge. It's like a egg, like a teardrop, really. It looks like a big old teardrop shaped sponge. Some people would call it an egg looking, a pointy egg. But this is flat on the bottom and pointed at the top. This pointed top helps get in under the eyes. But there are other options that you have. You can use your fingers, which I do highly recommend for absolute beginners, because then you can tell where you've gotten it, especially if you're using something like the Maybelline Dream Wonder Fluid Touch, like so. But I'm going to show you the sponge today. Now, you can also pick up a Real Techniques sponge. This isn't the right one, but it's similar looking to it, only instead of it being orange and pink, it's solid orange. And the Miracle Complexion sponge is what I like the best. I don't have mine right here in front of me besides this one. This is the dual one. This one doesn't expand like the regular one does. And the sponge I'm using, the AOA Studio sponge, this one you wet it, and whenever you wet it, it helps keep extra product from absorbing into the sponge, so it makes it very nice to use. So that's what I'm going to be using today. So what I tend to do, just to talk you through this, I'm going to put like 2 or 3 swipes on the forehead, 1 down the nose, 2 or 3 on the cheeks, well, 3 on the cheeks, and then go on the jawline as well. Now, if you are worried about whether it matches, you can take it down the neck even. I've done that many times with foundations if I don't know if it'll match. And then I take this sponge, I'm taking the big end at first, and I'm just bouncing it all over the skin. Just bounce, 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 bounce. This kind of just presses it right into the skin. Now, if you wanted to, you could also use a brush. I feel the blender here really does a good job at pressing in the product, and it also gives a more natural finished look. And I can bounce it right over the eyes. I can take that pointed spot and go into the corner of the eye as well. So you just bounce, 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 bounce. And I take it down my neck. And whenever I'm doing my neck, I tend to drag it more, because that does help blend a little better as well. Oh, and one tip, whenever you are doing your foundation, put your hair back if you can, because that does help keep the foundation from getting all in your hair. Or you could always take your hand and pull back the hair in that general area if it is too short to pull back. And right here, this is a pretty good coverage that I have going on. But I'm going to do another layer and I'll show you another tool that you can use as well. So, hey, a 2-in-1, right? So, I'm going to do just another layer, not nearly as much, but whenever you're going for the second layer, I tend to focus it more in areas that I need extra coverage. So, that's what I would recommend, at least. That way you're not taking it on all over. Now, I have used brushes before here on my channel, and a couple of different brushes you can use. Well, I'm going to show you 3 actually here, but I'm going to only use one of them. It'd be kind of awkward to try to use 3 brushes. Right here is a typical foundation brush, right here. This first one. This is one by e.l.f. I do believe you can find this at Walmart. I believe they're like $3, maybe $4 for this one. And then I've also got the AOA Studio Ova brushes. I've got a set of these there's like 5 to the kit. And these are really good brushes as well. And they're so big that it takes little time to work it in. And then I have now this one is dirty here. The e.l.f., I believe this is their powder brush. I don't see why it's called the powder brush, but it is a flat top brush. Some people would call this a flat top kabuki, but I consider it just a flat top brush. It is completely flat at the top and densely packed. That means they're tightly packed in there, just like the Ova brush. And that's what I'm going to use today, is my Ova brush. And whenever you're using a brush, I tend to do little buffing motions. Now, if you notice, I can't get in that corner as well of the eye, but just do little buffing motions, and it helps really buff that makeup right on into the skin. Go over the eyes, down the neck again, and whenever you're using a brush like this, it can give fuller coverage. So, but on the neck, I do downward strokes. And if you're worried about it matching you completely, you can also cover the ears as well. Take your brush or your sponge or your hands and just wipe some foundation over your ears as well. That helps to help it match a little better. And if you feel like you've missed any area, you can go back over it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to the sponge just to get in that under eye and eye area. It just helps blend it a little bit better. So, but I'm going to go ahead and finish putting on my makeup, and then I'll come back and talk to you more about picking the right shade for you. Alright, I went ahead and took my hair down, as well as finished my makeup up. Now, all I used, I didn't even put any powder or concealer or whatever on, because that Wet n Wild is rather higher coverage. And I didn't even put any mascara on either, but I used the e.l.f. Contour Kit, as well as the e.l.f. Brow Pencil, and the Maybelline Color Sensational Lipstick in Maple Kiss, pardon me. So, that right there. Now, whenever it comes to choosing a foundation color, that is where having somebody else with you can really help, because it's so hard to pick the right color, especially in the bottle. Now, some makeup brands, especially from what I hear about at Walgreens, will have little testers that you can test. Or you can go to, like, Ulta, a mall, or something like that, and find out your shade from a brand like MAC, for example. MAC used to be the #1 thing, like, okay, I'm a, say NW30. I don't know for sure what my shade is in MAC. I'm just throwing that out there. And then you can go to a website called Findation, FINDATION.com. Put in that foundation, and it'll spit out some results for you. Now, the more foundations you do have in there for, okay, say, well, I know I'm Maybelline Fit Me 220, okay? So I put that in there. Well, then I put that I'm L'Oreal BB Cream Medium, the Wet n Wild Buff Bisque. That helps give a little bit more, precise results where it's not going to be too terribly off. But if you can't do that or whatever, I'm going to show you different foundations on me right now. I put on the Wet n Wild Photo Focus, which you can see. Now I'm going to show you Light Olive from BH Cosmetics here. You can see on the back of my hand, this is one way I do test, is to see, okay, is this way too light? Is it way too dark? You know, whatever. And see if it blends, especially with the side of my hand, you know. And then I'll show you the e.l.f. in Sand here. I mean, you can tell that's a little closer, but not quite what I want yet. Then we'll go ahead and do just a little bit of this Wet n Wild one. Here. You can tell that's a little closer to my natural color, especially whenever I blend it in a little more. It's as, you can tell right here it starts somewhat matching me. So that's pretty much the difference in those three foundations. And if I were to try to put one of these on my skin, on my face rather, then yes, it can work, especially if you take it all the way down to like your neckline, as well as cover the ears, and I'll even take it sometimes on the sides of the neck as well. So that does help. But whenever it comes to picking a foundation, you want it to look more like your natural skin, or at least I do. Some people think, oh, well, I want to look nice and bronze or whatever. That's where you use a bronzer instead of making your foundation darker, because that can look really horrible from what I've seen. I mean, I've seen photos of women that have a really dark face, but yet their hands are light as can be. Or a really pale face, but yet their body is as tan as can be. I've seen that in videos and whatnot. So that is one thing to keep in mind, that you watch what shade you're picking, and if you need to, like I said, go to Ulta, go to the mall, places like that. I don't know of any makeup brands like L'Oreal, for example. I don't know if they will send a test card or something. I know sometimes in like a Walmart beauty box years ago, or a while back, I got a little test card that kind of let me hold it up to my skin and say, oh, this is what shade I am. But I don't know if they still do that, or if they could still do that for you, send you one so you know, okay, I'm this shade. I know in L'Oreal I can get by with N5 in the True Match. So I've got several different foundations that I could give you the comparison to. So I consider myself medium to medium deep skin tone, and I'm a more warm complexion. Now I do have neutral foundations, like the N5 is a neutral foundation, but I tend to go more on the warm side than neutral. So, and that's another thing. If you don't know if you're warm, cool, or whatever, you can look online for sure to see what colors, like about your veins. Usually if they are, I think, blue, I could be wrong here, but blue tones I think are cool. Different color veins tell you whether you're cool, warm, neutral, whatever. So if you want a video on more about picking your tone foundation, like your skin tone, whether you're warm, cool, neutral, whatever, let me know in the comments down below, and I could try to add that to this thing as well, because I could very well be wrong on the blue being cool. But there's also like color tests you can do, and there's a lot of different ways you can see whether you're warm, cool, or whatever. So, but whenever it comes to picking your foundation, just go with whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to use your hands to apply it, go for it. Like I said, you can really tell, well, where did I miss? Like this foundation that I've got on right now, it is a more tacky finish. Whenever I say tacky, I mean it has kind of a sticky finish to it. So that's where a powder, like a loose powder or even the e.l.f. Prime and Stay powder on top, does help take away that stickiness. And then if you really want to make it stay even more, set it with a setting spray. That's what the setting sprays help with, is to help prolong it as well. I mean, I could do a devoted video straight up to just making your makeup last, extending the makeup longevity, extending your makeup wear. So I could do that if you want to see that as well. And if you want to know any other things about how to wear a certain product or whatever, I do have a lot of videos in this beginner basics tutorial thing. I've already done eyes, the face, the powder, all that. Now I probably will redo the concealer video as well as the powder video, possibly. I'm not sure yet, but we will see on that, and that will come later on, because I do have different videos that I'm working on for Halloween. I'm going to try to do a Freddy look, maybe a like 90s, think of Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts and Pretty Woman. I'm thinking of doing that. And if you've noticed, I do have red hair now, so, I'm debating on whether to do a female version of Chucky. So, but I've already done a 80s type look inspired by Stevie Nicks. So I've already done that. So who knows what all I'm going to be coming out with these next 2 weeks before Halloween. And then I also have videos planned for the holiday season as well. So I do hope that you hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And also, if you want to, I have a giveaway going that I'm going to draw on Halloween. Might even do a live video for that, I'm not sure yet. But I'm going to do a drawing, and the more you interact with me in the comments, over on my Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, got a hair on my face, all that, then the more entries you get. So, hey, why not, right? I mean, it's not a huge giveaway, but I will leave that link down below as well. And you can also join the Blind Beauty Support Facebook group, where we talk about all things beauty. I will see y'all next time, and y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.